Hello and welcome to a Friday afternoon at my sewing room. Great news for all those people that aren't embroidery enthusiasts yet. We're gonna do some decorative sewing today. Wild change of pace for me. Mostly I embroider. Embroidery makes me super happy, but there's more ways of doing things than just embroidering. So that's what we're headed off to do today. We have last week, Barb and I started sewing some ornaments for Patchabilities. This is a gift tags and Noel. There's a whole series of ornaments from Patchabilities. Chelsea's going to be a ninja in beside me. Thank you. Could you give me some black thread as well? Thanks. So we started sewing some ornaments. Last week, Barb gave you the starting point to stitch the Noel by hand using a hand blanket stitch. And it's, she's done a fabulous job. I'm just going to switch to my close-up cam here so you can see it in more detail. Lovely little blanket stitching on that applique. And if that's your speed, fantastic. She's got little French knots in there. If you want to learn more about handwork, we have a recorded class on hand embroidery, and it covers many weeks and lots of little hand stitching techniques. So that would be a really good place to go if you want to be able to do some of this by hand. If you're like me and you're a bit of like a speed junkie and you want to do things as fast as possible, you might want to get to the same place a different way. And that could be by using the stitching on your machine. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of decorative stitching with a machine today. And the second part of this set is the gift tags. So this one says to Jack. It's got, oh, there's the cutest little buttons in this set, which they're deep in there. I'm gonna leave them in the bag so I don't lose them. We'll be able to sew these buttons on later on. So little tiny buttons with decorative details on them. They're adorable. So those are gonna go on underneath the other details on my little tag. But I'm gonna set up to do a little bit of decorative stitching. Today I am going to be stitching on a Bernina 880. That's what I sew on at home, so that's the one I'm most comfortable doing this with. Feet that I'm using today, I'm going to be using a 20C foot because that's what I like to use for decorative stitching. And we could go ahead and like pre-draw a line on here, but I'm just going to follow the sketchy picture and the rough layout provided in the pattern. That's going to make me happy. And all the wool that I need is in there. I could trace out one of these tree bits. So I'm going to start with something that looks like tree leaves. And I'm going to go find a stitch that would replicate that kind of vibe. And usually in either the decorative stitching or the quilting stitching, there's going to be something that might give you the right kind of feel for this texture. There's some actual leafy, viney things. We could use those instead. That one might be pretty good, but it's got branches in it that I don't want today. So I'm going to go pick this kind of feathery, that kind of feathery stitch. I might pick that kind of, no, maybe not that one. There's so many choices. I think actually what I'm going to do is I quite like the look of this leaf design. But I'm going to go in and make some changes. I don't want it going two different directions. So in this edit menu on this particular machine, there is the option to tell it the number of repeats. Oh, that's a full repeat. I don't want the full repeat. So we'll go find a different stitch. There's a stitch designer on the 880, but that would be another day. We'll stick with that particular stitch. On this machine, it's stitch 172. And I'm going to mirror it up down so that it gives me a better flow leaf-wise. That's my thought. We're going to stick with this one. And before I get started, I'm going to do a little bit of test sewing on this stitch. I'm going to set this up to do a single repeat so we can see just the single repeat on it and see if I'm happy with the settings. Right now I'm using a 20 foot, and I've got some clean and tear stabilizer for in behind my felt, which is next to me here. And I'm just going to do a test sew of this stitch to see if I'm happy with the size that it stitches out and the overall vibe that it gives me. That's, oh, it's like a triple stitch. And give me nice chunky leaves. And this is the other place where you can start checking to make sure that you're happy with the tension if you do a test sew. Do the next test sew through some scrap from the edge of our cutout here. Right now this program to stitch one repeat and stop. And my initial look at this tells me I'm not happy with my tension. I'm seeing a bit of my white bobbin thread coming up, which means I'm probably not threaded with tighter tension for embroidery, which is a nice way to help deal with stitching on decorative stitches. So no, not entirely happy with the default tension. But definitely happy with kind of the vibe of leaf that's giving me, or tree branch for my little Christmas tree. So if I'm not happy with the tension, the Bernina 8 series happens to have an alternate method for threading. So I'm going to thread this. It was threaded with sewing tension. So I'm going to go ahead and rethread the bobbin case with embroidery tension, which is going to give more tension to my bobbin thread and help pull those decorative stitches to the back of my project. And then I'm going to try the next little bit through a scrap of wool and do the same stitch over again. And I'm still set up for just a single repeat. Now with the tension readjusted, I have a fabulous little branchy thing. I'm very happy with that. So if you were concerned about where this was all going to land as you start to make your project, and you do want to go ahead and mark it, this is a fine line disappearing marker. I could do a rough sketch of where I'd like those branches to be to give it kind of a tree type vibe. And I think we'll start with the long one. Leaving space at the bottom of this for the present, the button present, the button shaped like a present to be stitched on. If I decide that I want that first little branch to go a little bit further, we can carry on and stitch just a little bit more of the next repeat. You can kind of go as far as you want. We're done. One whole repeat plus a little bit more. For the next one, I don't necessarily want all my branches to be the same because that's not how trees grow. So just mind the camera for a moment. For the next one, I would like to mirror it the other way. So my little sticky up branch is partway along. And I don't want it to start in exactly the same place as the first one. So I'm just going to start off my fabric just a little bit. Or I'm going to start over here. And I'm going to stitch partway through this and then come back in. Yeah, that's... Oh, I'm going to start off my fabric. That's what I'm going to do. So I would like my next little branch to just end up in a slightly different place. Maybe this branch grows up slightly. I'm going to start just off this piece of fabric, my wool. My bobbin thread short started just a bit shy. There we go. Now we're picked up. Just about finished the base unit of this repeat. I'm going to take a quick peek. I think I'd like this branch to be a little bit longer too. Keep stitching. Put a knot in. Cut that thread. More stitches. We'll do another one of these, and then we'll do a little bit of lettering. So back on screen as we go higher up the tree, I might want to make this design a slightly different shape. I could use my stitch length and stitch with knobs to reduce it. Or I could just carry on playing with the stitch as it is right now. a little short. Making funky little trees. Happy little trees. We might need one more little tree branch up there. But I might go start another part of this project because I could stitch trees all day. They're lots of fun. So, from here, I'm going to switch out my thread to something darker, black for my tag. Unless I drop the thread stand and knock everything over, which is roughly the game plan at the moment, just to make a big mess. But what I'd like to do is go and add some lettering to this. So we can do that while we're in there as well. So back on screen, I'm going to go into combination mode. And combination mode is the plus sign on the bottom of the Bernina screens that will allow you to build words. So we're just going to find a pretty simple font. I don't need something elaborate. This is a very small little ornament. I'm going to go 2. To get a space in most of these fonts, there's an underscore. Oh. If we find out that we want a lowercase o, we could delete back through those first 2 letters. I would like a lowercase o. And then a space. And then I'm going to write to Leah, because that's who I would like to give a gift to today. But the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to test sew this and make sure that it is short enough to fit across my tag the way I intend. So I've got that built in combination mode. I'm still using that extra tension in the bobbin case for embroidery. I'm going to stitch this on my scrap piece to double check that I'm liking what I'm getting. And I think that little to Leah tag will work just fine. So you could be really accurate and get in there and measure where you want this to start. This is the decorative tag. If you're concerned at any point on something like this that it's not going to be perfectly straight, draw yourself a reference line. You might be able to use the guidelines on your plate to help keep the project aligned. We're on the last letter of my name. I'm going to hit the pattern end button so it finishes my pattern and it's programmed to cut the thread. And then this little tail, we could thread that through to the back. We might need a star on top of our tree. We could add the year down in the bottom using the same combination mode. And we could sew a button shaped like a present on here. So without yellow thread with me today, we're not going to stitch a star, but we can go in and find a stitch that would probably work for a star. So back into our decorative stitches and out of combination mode. That is a fabulous little star. And I would like a single repeat of it. So I, for info, set up a single repeat like all our other test sewing we've done today. Test sew to make sure this is actually going to be the size and scale that we're looking for in this project. A pretty cute little star. It'll be adorable in little yellow thread. Might find some gold. There's lots of ways of dealing with this. No wrong answers, really. When you start experimenting with your decorative stitching, don't be afraid. A project the size of a gift tag, not scary at all. Very doable. Either start with a practice piece, but having that stabilizer in behind will make you a whole lot happier in the long run. And embellish this however you want. There's no wrong answer. That's my thought on it. But if you're thinking that Patchabilities is lots of fun, you're completely correct. There's a ton of new Patchabilities designs if you're looking for something to kind of chill and stitch over the holidays. There is a gnome table runner. There's snowmen. Woo, monthly minis. Ooh, it's got embroidery. Some of the new Patchabilities designs are coming with embroidery files as well. So if you want to make it, but it's not a day where you have time to sit down and decorative stitch, you can do the embroidered version. And many, many, many of our new monthly minis. These have a cool new hanger with them. There's a metal stand potentially coming. I know we have one for display. Chelsea's being ridiculous right behind the camera. New monthly minis for next year. Peace, love, and joy with a tree. Some of the buttons in some of these packs are just priceless. There's a little candy cane in this one. There's a great snowman. Really cool sled. So lots of fun things to keep you stitching through the holidays and whenever else you might want to stitch. That is mostly what I wanted to cover for today. Thank you so much. Hope to see you guys making some ornaments. You still have time. It's the 9th. You have, I don't know, 16 days to make some ornaments. I'd love to see what you're making. One ornament. You can make one ornament between now and Christmas. That's my challenge. Have a great evening, everybody, and we'll see you next week. For Monday, we'll be doing the next installment of Demo December for Kimber Bells.